Alright guys, so let's go to example 2 now. So example 2 says write a program that will ask the user enter two floating point values. Your program must then find and display the sum of the two numbers supplied by the user. Okay, so you remember when you were looking at the same file actually. Let me just go back up right here. You have the data types right here. You have the data types, and you got the float, right? The float. So here it says that it's used to store decimal number values. That is what the example is asking for. We just want to get two numbers from the user that are floating point values. See, a float is going to accept decimal numbers, as in numbers with decimal points, as opposed to the integer. You know, the integer, like when we did the integer in the first example, which is right above right here, this one, the integer only accommodates numbers without any decimal places, but a float does. So we're trying to get two numbers from the user that are decimal numbers, add them together, and then we're going to display the sum of the two numbers. Alright, let's go to C++80 and let's get coding. Alright. So I'm gonna declare a first variable. I'm gonna name it num1. So it's a float. So I'm gonna name it num1 as in the first number that's gonna be entered by the user. I'm gonna declare another variable. I'm gonna name it num2 because it's gonna be the second number that's gonna be entered by the user. And finally, I'm gonna declare another variable, which is going to be the sum. See, the thing about programming is that whenever you're performing any particular operation, you have to store the result. You have to store that process somewhere. So even the sum itself deserves to have its own storage location. So when you store the first number, the second number, you also have to store a place where you're gonna store, where you're gonna put the sum of the two numbers, as in the first number plus the second number, where you're gonna put the sum. So you're gonna need a container for that too. So I'm going to ask the user to enter a number. So remember cout, right? Cout, pretty much, you use it to display stuff on the screen. So I'm going to say cout, enter a number. Alright, enter a number. And then I'm going to in num1, because num1 is a variable that I declared to store the first value that is going to be entered by the user. So I'm going to say cin num1. Okay. And then I want to ask the user to enter another value. So I'm going to say cout, enter, oopsies, okay, and why is my caps lock misbehaving? Enter another value, enter another number. Alright, I think it has to do with the weather. It is super hot, you guys. Alright, so I'm going to say cin num2. Alright, we got two numbers there obtained from the user, because our program simply has to get two numbers from the user, and we're going to store those numbers to memory, and then we now have to find the sum. Cool. How do we do that? So when you are finding the sum, first of all, you got to bring up the variable that is going to store the answer. So in this case, it's sum, right? Because the answer is the sum. When you add two numbers, you get the sum, right? Right. So we're going to call the variable that is going to store the answer, which is the sum. So we're going to say sum is equals, what are we adding, you guys? We are adding the first number that was entered by the user and stored in this variable called num1, and the second number which was stored in num2. So we're pretty much adding num1 plus num2. So you know what this means? This simply means add whatever number was stored as the first number, add it to the number that was stored as the second number. So if the user was here, user here entered say 7, and here they entered say 5. So that pretty much means that we're going to be adding 7 plus 5. So by doing this, we're simply saying add whatever number was obtained as the first number, and the number is obtained as second number. Okay, cool. Now the example says after adding the sum, you gotta display the sum. So I'm gonna display a sum, and then we're gonna use cout for that. So we're gonna say sum is And then you remember how we code variables in the first example? So here we're trying to see out the sum, we're trying to print out the sum. So which simply means we gotta call the variable sum, because variable sum is what is storing the answer of sum. Alright, so I'm gonna do that. Alright, and just like that, our program is done. Alright, so I'm gonna compile and run this program. I'm gonna go right here. I'm gonna compile and run it. Alright, and I'm gonna wait for it to run. Hmm, maybe I'm a little impatient, it's taking too long. Oh, finally. Alright, so enter a number. Enter a number. So I'm gonna enter maybe 4, and then I'm gonna enter another number. I'm gonna enter maybe 6. Alright. See, sum is 10. So let's try to make the nonsense much more sensible by comparing something that is running plus the code that we typed. So see, when we say see out enter a number, this is what you get right here. You get the prompt enter a number, and then the user is going to see this, and then they're going to enter the number. So when you enter the number, the cin gets the number and stores it to this variable called num1. And then see out enter another number. Yeah, you're going to see that displayed right there. And when the user enters a number, like I entered 6 in my case, so 6 was stored in this variable right here. And then here, when you say sum is equals num1 plus num2, this is where we're finding the actual answer now. Remember what I said. It simply means get the number that was entered as a first number. In my case, that was 4. And then add that to the number that was entered as a second number. And in my case, that was 6. So it simply means add 4 plus 6 to produce what? 10. So this 10 was stored where? In this variable called sum. So this simply means add the first number to the second number and store the answer in sum right here. This way, when I say sum is going to come out just like that. As you can see, you guys, sum is just comes out just like that. And then when I say sum, it actually prints out the actual sum, which was 10, just like that. I don't know about you guys, but this is so easy. It's like eating baby food. Alright, that does it for our second example. I'm going to see you guys in the third example. Alright.